58% of sales reps require coaching to better sell in a virtual environment. I'm going to stop right there. Will, what do you think of that statement? I'm just stopping right there.
I'm going to tell you what I think, and then I'm going to have a guess at what you think. Is that cool?
Okay, that's very cool.
So what I think is, makes sense. People have been selling one way. People are going, well, I work for this organization. Sales isn't my life. This is a job. I go to work. I come back from work. And so maybe I need some coaching. Maybe I need some help. And I think what you're thinking is, why are all these people complaining when it's their careers on the line and they should be getting the coaching, they should be getting the training themselves so that they can earn more money, to investing in themselves so that they can make the most of the opportunity that they're perhaps in right now.
And, see how I just add to what you just said? I agree with everything you said. And I said, and who's going to train them? Who's going to coach them? Because, like, for example, most managers have never sold virtually frontline, so they're going to be coached by their managers. So hopefully they got to find people who can actually do this. But we're still in I don't want to say a nascent stage of, virtual selling, but we're trying to figure this out. So, and then I go back to what you just said that I would say. Figure some of this stuff out. It's not that hard. Stop whining about it. So yeah, but anyway, the new research from Gartner revealed that 93% of sales reps experience challenges that negatively impact their selling capabilities in a virtual environment. I mean, no sugar, honey, iced tea. You know what I mean? Come on. Of course, with 58% needing dedicated coaching sessions from sales managers to merely function. Their sales managers have never sold virtually, so how can their sales managers help them? But anyway, according to Danielle McKinley, Director of Research and Advisory in the Gartner Sales Practice, 68% of challenges to virtual selling are internal. I got lost on that one, Bill. 66% of challenges to virtual selling are internal, and it's up to sales managers to take charge. She explained that this includes overhauling an organization's sales coaching culture, and it's a linchpin for the true virtual. How many times on this program do we have to blame it on coaching culture? How many times do we have to do this? If I don't have a real answer or anything of value, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blame it on a coaching culture. That's it. Blame it on the CC. I don't have a real answer, so let's blame it on that. We don't have the right culture. I
think maybe if you hadn't added the extra sentence onto the end of that, talking about culture, if someone says to me, 66% of challenges to selling virtually are internal, that would suggest that it's software, it's tools, it's time, it's infrastructure, and some of that may be true. If you are working, for example, myself, a medical device organization, my background, perhaps we can't use Zoom because I think it is now, but at the beginning of the pandemic, they weren't encrypting their calls. So if I'm dealing with a surgeon, I'm not discussing patient data or anything like that would be particularly confidential, but perhaps selling to the government in that case, they would want the calls to be encrypted, the conversations to be secure. So there is an element of internal infrastructure that perhaps needs to be implemented here. Perhaps it's talking about like sales targets. We perhaps need to shift from so many cold calls, cold emails, outreach a day to perhaps a social selling cadence or something like that. So I can understand that there is an element of internal battles, probably between people who are more clued up on some of this. Perhaps people who more use these services and tools more often just in their home life already, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, my tolerance for excuses is edging more and more towards what I think yours is, Victor, because it's been 12 months, right? We all should have adapted and changed in that period. But I can see that I can give us a little bit of sympathy in the fact that there might be some internal things that need to go on before this can be done seamlessly, or as seamlessly as it's been done in the past.
All I know is my sympathy tank is running on fumes with this. You know what I mean? Because this is a leadership problem. It's again, we're trying to blame sales managers here again. For some reason, we continue to do that. If you're a CXO and you haven't figured this out here, you should be fired. Do you know what I mean? If you haven't figured out what tools your salespeople need, you should be fired. If you're a VP of sales and you don't get your salespeople the tools, you should be fired. I'm firing everybody today, Will.
Maybe I can give a bit of context on this from a training perspective. So, and you tell me if you're the same on this, I'm not sure. I've not announced it yet, so I won't talk about it too much, but we're basically redoing all of the content over in our training product at salesman.org. Like everything is being redone. It's going to be rebranded slightly from the Sales Accelerator to something else. I mean, you can talk about it off air if you like, but I'm redoing everything we're not calling it virtual selling, but with another brand name in mind. And we're redoing everything. There's going to be training on using Zoom, using technology, where it is. I know you use similar switches. Recommendations on like camera switches, video switches, so you can get slides up on the screen in front of you without having to rely on software. We're getting through, because these are like 300 quid each. Absolutely a bargain if you want to use a more professional camera setup. We're talking about lighting. We're getting into all kinds of stuff. We're getting into, we do a lot of content on mindset, getting yourself ready and set up for success, kind of internally. I know it sounds a bit cheesy and corny, but that element of things, and how to do that at home when you've not got a big room of people and bravado and stuff kind of aligned with you, the motivational side of things. We're redoing all of our content to align with this. And I could have redone it 6 months ago. I could have done it 10 months ago at the beginning of the pandemic, but I wanted to see how things panned out, see if this was legit, for real, what was going to happen before I committed to it. I didn't want to just rush out a product and it be shit 6 months after the fact, right? And I feel like we've got a good idea of what's going to happen moving forward. So the reason I tell you and the audience that, Victor, is maybe there is a little bit of reluctance to make some of these firm changes from a CXO level down, because they want to perhaps they've got the cash reserves, they've got the funding, they're not as precious about sales targets this quarter, this year, this 18-month period, and they're happy just to let things settle and really build infrastructure in place so that they can do it once and do it properly. Is there some grain of truth to that, maybe?
There's a lot of truth to that. Well, and I truly, like, first of all, I admire that you're actually redoing content. That's a lot of work.
Everything. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of work. And I'm sure it's going to look great. I'm sure it's going to look fantastic. It's going to be great content. But when I look at, I put myself in a VP of sales position, right? And I see March, I go, last March, I'm like, what do we do, right? Pandemic. By June, July, come on, even you and I pivoted. Even any smart VP would have said, okay, we need to change. I think even by the end of the year, people said, you know what? Even if my revenues aren't increasing, my costs are going through the floor and my margins are up. Therefore, this becomes not part of the playbook. Studies like Gartner, who we love, and Forrester, and all these companies are highlighting this remote selling is not going away. This will now be part of the sales bag. So if I know that already, this isn't a guessing game anymore. I mean, I'll give you the 3 month, maybe 6 month leeway when we hit the pandemic, when the pandemic started. But now, Will, I mean, if people aren't planning around remote selling as part of their strategy, it's almost like saying, yeah, maybe social media will work. Even though everybody's kind of using it, maybe it'll work. So I think the investment should have been made. And when they say it's an internal problem, that's a leadership problem. That's all I'm putting it back on the leaders, because they should have made these changes already. I'm holding them accountable, Will.